I know what you're all thinking. Of course Sparta was a monarchy. They had that king with the rippling obs and the catchphrase. Don't worry, we'll get to him. Several hundred years earlier, and Sparta was ruled by King Menelaus and his wife, Helen of Sparta. Helen's father had been king of Sparta and her husband ruled as her consort. Helen and Menelaus receive a visit from Paris the Trojan, and while he was there he seduced Helen and hied her away to Troy. Or possibly to Egypt. In a Bronze Age context, seduction could imply a normal seduction or a kidnapping and rape. Legend has it being a result of Paris judging a divine beauty contest which resulted in him taking a bribe of luckiness in love from Aphrodite. Whatever the reason Helen left, Menelaus had to do something about it. His claim to his title and riches came through Helen, and of course nobody likes to be cuckolded by some trouser-wearing Asiatic. Thereafter Helen became known as Helen of Troy and was the cause of the Trojan War. Okay, I know historians claim there were countless economic and social causes for the war, but the story that has come down to us is of the Queen of Sparta having it away with a Trojan prince. Now, it may not seem very Spartan to allow your wife to run off with some perfumed Nancy boy and then to rely on your relatives to help you in a lengthy attempt to regain her. Well, that's because they weren't in fact Spartans. Not, at least, the Spartans we are all familiar with. Helen and Menelaus were Bronze Age royalty, and in the Bronze Age Sparta were a monarchy. At the end of the Bronze Age the cities of Messene and Greece fell due to an event usually referred to as the Dorian invasion. Sparta was colonized by the Dorians and became a new nation, with a new royalty and a new government. The new Dorian Spartans supposedly had a monarchy in the time before the reliable recording of history. By the historical period they had kings. Specifically, they had two kings at once. When Leonidas went to the hot gates of Thermopylae to face the Persians, he wasn't a Spartan king. He was a Spartan king. There was another, which came in handy when Leonidas was killed. It's always useful to have a spare, and Cleomenes was ready. In fact, when Leonidas marched against the Persians there was also a third Spartan king, Demaratus, who had been deposed after Cleomenes had bribed the Delphic oracle and had him removed from his position. This Demaratus was at that time in the service of the Persian king. So, how did this system of kings come about? The story goes that a Spartan king had twin sons, and they were so similar no one could tell which was born first. It was eventually discovered which was eldest, but both were allowed to be kings. The twins were called Eurysthenes and Procles, and their descendants were therefore called the Aegiads and the Eurypontids. Each of these two families provided a king, co-equal with his companion. So how does a joint king rule? He doesn't. The rulers of Sparta were the Ephors. The Ephors were not hideous priests, as viewers of the movie may think, but rather an elected council. The Ephors were the supreme power in Sparta. So the Spartans at the height of their power were not a monarchy, but a constitutional diarchy. There were other diarchies in history, especially among Celtic societies, and the Spartan diarchy might have been related to those rather than caused by the twins in the tale. Wherever it came from, it lasted as long as the Spartan system lasted, and as long as Spartan independence lasted.